Welcome to the Real English Podcast, Work and Life. I'm Michael.
And I'm Sophie.
You know, Sophie, I was thinking about something the other day. This idea of perfectionism. I was writing a pretty simple email, and I must have reread it about 10 times, just tweaking one or two sentences to get them to sound perfect,
Oh, I know that feeling all too well. The endless editing.
right? And it wasn't even an important email. It made me think about how often we do this when we speak, especially when we're speaking a language that isn't our first.
Absolutely. And in a work context, that pressure gets magnified by 100. You're in a meeting, you have a great idea, but you're so busy trying to formulate the absolute perfect, grammatically flawless way to say it that by the time you're ready, the conversation has completely moved on.
The moment is just gone.
Exactly, it's gone.
And that's really what we want to talk about today. Why this drive for perfectionism, especially in a workplace setting, might actually be the biggest thing killing your English fluency.
It's such a strange internal battle, isn't it? Because when we speak our native language, we don't do that at all. We stumble over words, we say and we restart sentences halfway through. It's all just part of natural speech.
Totally. We give ourselves that grace.
We do. But when it comes to English, for so many professionals, there's this internal editor that is just relentless. It's constantly checking and rechecking every word before it even comes out of your mouth.
And that process, that constant internal calculation, that's what kills all the spontaneity.
It does. It kills spontaneity, and I think it also kills connection because when you're stuck in your head, you're not really present in the conversation. You're not actively listening to what the other person is saying.
Right. You're just waiting for your turn to deliver your pre-approved perfect line.
Exactly. You're performing, not communicating. And that fear, the fear of making a mistake or saying something that isn't quite right, it's so powerful. It makes us choose silence over an imperfect contribution.
Which is the great irony. In our quest to sound perfect, we often end up saying nothing at all. Let's really dig into that workplace pressure, because I think that's where this feeling is most intense. Imagine you're on a conference call. Everyone is a native speaker, and they're all talking quickly.
Oh, yeah, the fast talkers. That can be intimidating.
For sure. The pace is fast, ideas are flying back and forth. You have a really valuable point to add, something that could actually change the direction of the project. But your internal thought process is, okay, wait, I need to use the present perfect tense here, and then I should probably use the specific business vocabulary word I learned. And you're mentally building this little tower of words.
Right, like a little grammatical Jenga tower.
Exactly. And you're so afraid it's going to collapse if you pull it out. So you wait, and you wait for the perfect moment. And then someone else says something similar, maybe not as well thought out as your point, but they said something. And they're the one driving the conversation forward.
That is such a common and deeply frustrating experience. I see it in presentations too. I've seen brilliant people, true experts in their field, give presentations where they intentionally stick to very simple, very safe sentences because they're afraid of messing up more complex structures.
That makes sense.
Their ideas are incredibly complex and nuanced, but the language they use to express them is simplified. And as a result, their full expertise doesn't come across.
That's a huge point. The gap between the complexity of their thoughts and the simplicity of their safe language. They end up underselling their own intelligence because of this fear.
They do. They're trying so hard to avoid a small mistake, but in doing so, they make a much bigger strategic one, not communicating their true value to the team or the client.
And this extends beyond formal meetings, doesn't it? I'm thinking about those informal situations, like networking events, or even just the chit chat before a meeting starts.
Oh, absolutely. The dreaded small talk. For a perfectionist, that can be even more terrifying than a presentation. In a presentation, you have a script, you have your slides, but in small talk, it's completely unscripted.
Exactly. You see people who want to connect, who want to talk to a senior manager or a potential client. They're standing there, drink in hand, just running through a mental list of perfect opening lines. Should I talk about the weather? No, too cliche. Should I ask about their work? No, too direct. The analysis paralysis is intense.
And while they're debating the perfect thing to say, someone else walks up and just says, "Hey, great conference, huh? That last speaker was interesting." It's not a perfect sentence. It's not incredibly witty, but it's a start. It opens a door.
And the perfectionist is still standing by the wall, having missed the chance. It's because we feel that casual conversation should be easy, so the vocabulary should be perfect. We forget that the goal isn't to deliver a perfect monologue, it's to build a rapport, to find the small human connection.
That's the real strategic loss, isn't it? So much of business, so many opportunities come from those informal relationships. And perfectionism convinces you to stay silent during the very moments those relationships are built. You're so afraid of a small grammatical error that you make the huge error of not connecting at all.
Yeah. And it's not just about what you say, it's about how you sound. That constant hesitation, the second guessing, it changes your tone of voice. You sound less confident, less certain, even if your English is technically flawless.
It really makes you wonder where this all comes from. I mean, this pressure is so intense. For me, I think a lot of it traces back to how we learned English in school. The focus was always on finding the error, the teacher's red pen.
The red pen, yes. You get your essay back and it's just covered in corrections. You weren't graded on the quality or the creativity of your idea, you were graded on the absence of mistakes.
Exactly. So we were trained from a young age to believe that mistakes are bad, that they're a sign of failure or lack of intelligence. And we carry that academic mindset into our adult professional lives, where the rules of the game are actually completely different.
That's so true. Honestly, I even find myself doing it sometimes in my own language. If I'm talking to someone I perceive as very intelligent or articulate, I suddenly start monitoring my own speech more. I become more self conscious. It's that same perfectionist trigger firing.
It is. It's a fundamental fear of being judged, I think. We have this belief that if we make a grammar mistake, people will think we're less competent or less smart. But in reality, in most collaborative work environments, people just want to understand your idea. They want your contribution.
Which brings us to a really important shift in perspective, reframing what a mistake even is in the first place. In a real business conversation, what's more important, using the correct preposition or getting your brilliant idea across so the team can build on it?
It's not even a question, is it? It's the idea. Communication is not an academic test. It's a tool. It's about connection and creating shared understanding so you can move forward together.
Yeah, think about it this way. Has anyone ever actually come to you after a meeting and said, Sophie, you made a great point in there, but you used in when you should have used on, so we're going to completely ignore your idea?
No, that has never happened. And if it did, I probably wouldn't want to work with that person anyway.
Right. The truth is, most people don't even notice. And if they do, they don't care. They're listening for the message, not for the packaging it comes in. The goal of fluency isn't perfection, it's clarity. It's simply being understood.
Being understood and being a part of the conversation. Fluency is flow, and you can't have flow if you're constantly building a dam to check if the water is pure enough. At some point, you just have to let it go.
You know, we've been talking a lot about this being driven by fear, the fear of judgment, the fear of making mistakes. And I think that's mostly true. But I wonder, do you think there's also an element of something else? Maybe a desire for respect?
That's an interesting distinction. What do you mean by that exactly?
Well, maybe it's not always about avoiding a negative outcome, like being judged. Maybe sometimes it's about trying to achieve a positive one. Like the thinking is, if I speak perfectly, people will see me as a true professional. They'll take my ideas more seriously. So it's less about fear and more about ambition.
Okay, I can see that. It's about wanting to project a certain image of competence, and that's a very valid motivation. But I think it can lead you into the exact same trap.
How so?
Because what projects more competence in the long run? A person who speaks with flawless but very hesitant and slow grammar, or a person who speaks with confidence and contributes great ideas, even if there are a few small errors here and there?
That's the right question. And the answer is almost always the second one. Confidence and contribution will trump technical perfection every single time in a business context.
Right. So even if the motivation is a positive one, projecting competence, the method of chasing grammatical perfection at the expense of actually speaking up is still counterproductive. That's a really helpful clarification.
So, as we start to wrap up here, it feels like the big thought isn't really about learning more grammar rules or memorizing more vocabulary lists. It's about giving ourselves permission.
Permission to be imperfect, permission to be human when you speak.
Yeah, to show up in a conversation exactly as we are, with the language that we have today, and to trust that our ideas have value, even if the words we use to express them aren't exactly what a textbook would prescribe.
There's something so liberating in that idea. It's not about lowering your standards for yourself, but about shifting your focus. Shifting from, am I saying this right, to, am I being understood? Am I contributing?
Exactly. It's a fundamental shift from performance to presence. And when you allow yourself to be truly present in a conversation, that's where real fluency begins to happen. Not because you're suddenly perfect, but because you're connected.
That's a really nice thought to end on. It's not about being flawless, it's about being present.
Well said. Thanks for the conversation, Sophie.
Thank you, Michael.